Hello and welcome to Women of Influence podcast. Hi, I'm Jaylen with the J Group Real Estate Team.
The Great American Speak Off.
One of my favorites.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another Women of Influence podcast. Today, I have with me Leslie Ungar, beautiful, wonderful, fabulous executive coach, women's leader, speechwriter. She works with horses. Welcome, Leslie. I'm so excited to have a conversation with you today.
Thank you. Not as excited as I am. And let me just tell you, you have more rhythm in your little finger than I have in my whole body. So I admire that.
Oh my God, it's literally making me laugh out loud.
I got skipped on the great assembly line of heaven. Rhythm skipped me. And let me just tell you, it is not easy being a cheerleader when you have no rhythm. That's all I'm going to say.
Were you a cheerleader?
Yes, through just grit and determination, because I cannot hear a beat if my life depended on it.
Oh my gosh, that is so hilarious. I too was a cheerleader, and I was fortunately blessed with a little bit of rhythm. My husband would beg to differ. He's like, yeah, honey, you can't dance. I'm like, but I have my own style, you know,
Right.
It's all good.
I have no style because I hear no rhythm. And yes, no rhythm. Mm-mm.
So
Hopefully I have something else. I'm still looking on that journey for what I got. Since I got no rhythm, I must have gotten extra of something else.
You have this absolute light about you and energy, and we had a brief conversation before we popped on this, and I think you have a lot to say, a lot of really important, relevant information to share with our audience today. So let's just dive right into it. I'm really interested in particular the work that you do with horses and how you utilize the horse to help humans communicate better. Like, explain to us, like, tell us all about that. It's so cool.
Yes. Well, I named my business, when I started my business, I named my business after a horse. The horse's name was Electric Impulse. So to this day, people think I'm an electric company, and I probably get a call a week. Do I want to bid on some electrical job? Okay. But he was a big white Arabian stallion. And I believe that if we would have had our DNA tested, that we would have shared the same DNA. So I have a close bond with all animals, but horses in particular. And so when I started my coaching, speaking, and speechwriting business to help people identify, communicate, and protect their value, I found that in the coaching part, I would use examples from the show ring to make a point. And they seem to resonate with my clients. So as a result of that, I put together this horse experience. It's a one-day, no riding involved. I don't like the idea of people that don't know what they're doing riding horses. But I admire their bravery because they get very close to both the front end and the back end of a horse. And I so admire their bravery to come and do this day. But the reason it's important is that I don't believe you can be a leader today without being effective at communication. I don't care whether you're the leader of your brownie troop, if they still have brownie troops, or a CEO of a company. I'm from Akron, Ohio. We gave the world tires, Purell, and LeBron James. Back when we gave the world tires in the early 1900s, I think you could be a CEO without having good communication skills. You could just tell people what to do. I don't think you can today. So to me, communication and leadership intersect at leadership, and you have to be able to do both. So why a horse? I once had someone say to me, I'm kind of scared of horses. Could you just use big dogs? I said, well, the problem with big dogs is that as big as they are, you could pick them up and move them. You cannot pick up and move a horse. So you have to get buy-in from the horse. And we have to get buy-in from our audience, whether it's our audience is a 16-year-old teenager or whether our audience is above us on the organizational chart, below us on the organizational chart. We have to get buy-in, and the only way we can get it is verbally, and the only way we know we get it is when our audience tells us that. So the horse is genetically programmed to be able to identify leadership. For millions and millions of years, they've survived by identifying the right horse to be leader of the pack. So they identify leadership. The day is about me telling the humans what the horses are telling me about their communication and leadership.
This is so fascinating. I've got so many questions floating around in my mind right now. And like, to your comment earlier, a lot of people are afraid of horses. Like me personally, I've been bucked off of 2 horses once as a very young child. And then more recently, probably about 15 years ago, I was on a horse trying to lead it. And the horse sensed that I was not in control. It was like, I'm going to go do whatever I want over here because you clearly don't know what you're doing, lady. And it was somewhat terrifying for me. So
yes.
Yeah. And then I had an experience where I was in a rehab facility in Tennessee, and they were utilizing horse therapy. And I thought it was just so miraculous and amazing, the fact that I felt like the horse could really feel me and understand me. And it knew what I was going through. And it was just it was really hard to explain. But what is it about horses that make them so special?
I think partly, most of them are domesticated today, but if you think about them out in the wild, they had to survive on their instincts, and therefore they communicate, and they have to be recipients of communication 24/7. They have the ability, their eyes have the ability to see all the way around them, except for right where their tail is the only place they can't see, because they are flight animals. In case of danger, they will go forward. And so they have to be able to see danger. And so they are very, very intuitive, and they can read people just like dogs. I was a communication and rhetoric major. And when I was in school, there was this fairly famous, in the communication world, there was this fairly famous photo of Hitler. I'm Jewish, so I'll use him as an example. He was trying to pet a German Shepherd, and the German Shepherd was cowering from him. Well, that says it all, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. That dog could feel something, and we need to trust that. Horses can feel it, and we need to trust that, what they're telling us. When I start the day, I start with a 36-year-old horse that is like a big dog. Everyone feels real safe, right? Then I go to like a 26-year-old horse, and then I go, and listeners might want to look up Gypsy Vanner. It's a breed that is a small, it's like a small Clydesdale. It's a small draft horse. So if you think about the horses in the Budweiser commercials, it's a small draft horse, which means it's about 2,000 pounds. Which means it's about twice the size of your average horse, okay? And so we're sitting on bales of hay in the arena, and you hear this coming down, and I know what's coming, and they don't. And into the arena comes this 2,000-pound gray and white horse with blue eyes. Well, Finn knows he's a handsome boy, and he knows whether he can take advantage of you or not. He knows whether he even wants to try. Now, when Olivia started leading him at 14 years old, he didn't try to take advantage of her. He protected her. But he wants to be a bully. He's like a 17-year-old boy who wants to test his boundaries. And so you have to learn, you have to have boundaries. And so there's so many lessons that the horses can teach. I have a healthy respect. I don't blame anyone for being scared. I would have a healthy respect. But there's a saying in the horse world, if you get your foot stepped on or something or other, a horse person is going to say to you, what were you doing wrong? Because the horse is just being a horse. We did not anticipate it correctly, but the horse did not wake up that day and say, I want to step on that person's foot. It's
Right.
what were we doing? But how often are we getting in our own way? Which is just one of the many lessons that you can learn from a horse.
That is so interesting. Like I'm just listening to you talk, I can visualize and understand how the horses can teach us so many things about ourselves and lessons about how to become a better leader and to do the right thing so the horse is not, stepping all over us or kicking it or whatever the case might be. So can you give us a specific example as to maybe an experience you've had with a recent client to where
Yes.
You've done that work with them and that the horse has helped them to
Yes.
communicate on how to be a better leader?
Yes, I will tell you one of my favorite stories. Some of the people that come to Horse Talk, like this summer, I'm having hopefully she will still have her job, a federal worker from DC that I coach on Zoom that is coming in to do Horse Talk. Some people are clients that I know. Some people come to do the day and I meet them for the first time that morning. But Karina happened to be a client. And so I knew her, I worked with her before, I knew I would see her afterwards. Well, there's some individual challenges where you work individually with the horse and some group challenges where you have to work as a team. An individual, even if they were the horse whisperer, they cannot do it themselves. You have to work as a team. So it was the afternoon and we were doing a team exercise. You build an obstacle course and have to get the horse, Finn, the 2,000-pound gypsy vanner, to go through it without touching him in any way. So they're building the course. And so first you have to strategize, how do you build a course that the horse is going to easily go through? Then you have to figure out how to get him to go through it. And there's 6-8 people. Karina's been a client of mine and very successful leader of her company. And I see her, she's still in the pasture, but she's not engaged with the team. So I go over to her and I say, Karina, you need to stay engaged. And she said, well, I don't know anything about building an obstacle course. Well, who does? Who has gotten a PhD in how to build an obstacle course? But
Right.
She was a coaching client. I knew I would see her again. So I let the day play out. Couple weeks later, she calls me. She's in New York with 3 CEOs of lines that she represents. And they're sitting at a round table. There's a break. One of them at the break leans over to her and says, Karina, you need to stay engaged. Now, are you going to tell me that what happens at Horse Talk is not the same way we are in our everyday life? So that's one of the first rules of Horse Talk, is that how you are in the pasture is how you are. That she had a tendency to verbally, vocally, or visually appear not engaged. And we at least need to visually appear engaged. Even if we're making a mental list of going to the grocery store or whatever, we need to appear engaged. And that was a lesson from Horse Talk.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So you had mentioned that this particular client wasn't engaged, and it was mostly because she felt she didn't know how to create the obstacle course. And do you find that that's true for many clients, many people? Like they kind of tune out just because they don't know how to do something, and it's almost like a defeatist attitude. Does that kind of does that sound about right? Or
well, I think the real issue here is what I call the stories we tell ourselves. Other people call it self-talk. Is what do we tell ourselves? Now, she told me she didn't know. Maybe that's what she told herself, but is that a stop sign or is that a detour? Okay. I don't know a lot about this, but let me figure this out. You are going somewhere and the road is blocked and it says detour. What do? Do you turn around and go home and say, I couldn't get there? Or do you figure out how to get there? Years ago, a former professional basketball player said to me, there's a difference between a shooter and a scorer. And as much as I know sports, I didn't know what he was talking about. Well, you want to be the shooter, right? You want to score points. He said, A shooter, shoots the ball, maybe it goes in, maybe it doesn't. A scorer, it figures out how to get it done. If their 2-point game isn't there, then they get free throws. If their 3 throws aren't there, then they go to the 3-point game. Then they block, then they assist. They figure out how to win. They don't just say, my game's not there today. Yeah. So, we get a challenge. We don't know something. Okay, how can I go around? How can I find another way to get to what is the win or the completion of the project?
Yeah, it's all about growing too, right? Because when I started out in my career, like I didn't know how to be a real estate agent. I just got my broker's license. I'm like, I don't know how to be a broker. And I'm like, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do the research that's needed and reach out to my friends and do polls on Facebook or use Chat GPT, whatever it takes. I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm not going to get to that fork in the road and be like, oh, sorry, I don't know which way to go. I'm going to turn around and go back home.
Mm-hmm. There's a term, and I'm not a psychologist. I tell my clients sometimes, I'm very clear as to what I am, and I'm not a psychologist or a therapist. But at the same time, sometimes coaching does involve, some of the same skills. But there's a term that I've now heard twice in the last couple months: post-traumatic growth. Now, we've all heard post-traumatic stress, right? Mm-hmm. But post-traumatic growth, the growth that can come out of something that is stressful. And even though, horse talk is not meant to be stressful, though it's meant to be hard and it's meant to be uncomfortable. And the first exercise is actually meant to be frustrating. I wasn't smart enough to know about post-traumatic growth, but I knew that when you're frustrated, you will learn. That much I knew. And I had one client that was at Horse Talk, brilliant man. And he came up to me after this frustrating exercise called billiards. And he said, I have some suggestions for how you can make it less frustrating. And I said, well, that'd be great. But why don't you give me some suggestions for how you can make it more frustrating? Because it's designed to be frustrating. It's designed to see, what do you do when you're frustrated? When everything is going smoothly, it's easy to be a star, right? It's easy to stand out. But what about when it's not going smoothly?
Exactly. I mean, I just cannot even imagine a world for anybody where, everything is just constantly like easy and comfortable. Like you would literally be rotting, right? I forget the saying, when you're green, you grow, when you're ripe, you rot.
Yes. And so embracing, yesterday I had a client that is in the C-suite of a very large company, and she is taking a new challenge. And with that challenge comes a team member that she's worked with before that she knows is challenging. And so she came to commiserate, right? Challenging. She came to commiserate, and I think to get a little empathy for having to deal with a troublesome teammate. Okay. And I said, on my website and in my office, I have a banner of me hanging upside down. And the point is, at Electric Impulse, we look at things upside down. I don't try to. It's just the way that I look at things. So she tells me about this difficult team member. And I said, good. Because every team has one. You're lucky you know who it is. You're taking over a new team. You don't have to try to find out which one it is. Who's wearing a mask as cooperative when they're really not cooperative. You know who's going to be challenging. That's great. I understand that's not the typical way of looking at it, but my point is that we've got to look at how can we look at something to move forward, because whether it is an email, a PowerPoint, a speech, a meeting, or a horse talk, the goal is always to move something forward, regardless of the obstacles.
Yeah, there's a book out there. I forget the author, but it's called "The Obstacle is the Way." And like sometimes we have to take those obstacles we're faced with and embrace them, right? Because that's going to help us learn and help us grow and help us navigate our way through these difficult challenges, right?
Yes. Yes. And sometimes they change. It's like sometimes at Horse Talk, someone will say, well, why didn't you tell us that, say, this horse, can be, quote, difficult? Well, why would I? I don't know that. He's a horse. I don't know how he's going to feel waking up today. Or
Exactly.
maybe usually he's very cooperative. Today he's not. Okay. It's how do we deal with that? It's not what's happening, but how do we deal with that? Because what happens in the pasture and how we are in the pasture is how we are. And how do we deal with that? What do we tell ourselves? Poor me, I have a difficult team member, or yay, I'm ahead of the game. I already have identified some of the players.
I love that. Leslie, let's switch gears just a little bit. I understand that you have a very young client whose parents chose to hire you to help him with his communication skills. Tell us a little bit about that if you can.
Yes. He started out, he was my youngest client. He started with me at 13 and he just turned 15 and a half. And I know that because at 15 and a half, he can start driving, with an adult. Before him, my youngest clients were twins that were 15. So he was 13 and he's a golf prodigy. And his parents, his mother works in mergers and acquisitions. His father works at a private school, but they realized that he was going to need communication skills sooner than the average teenager may need them. And they wanted him, not just his golf skills, but they wanted his communication skills to be equal and ready to meet those opportunities. Whether those opportunities, he has been recruited for college since he was 14.
Oh, wow.
He needed to be able to go to those events and talk to the coaches and talk to the administrators and talk to the sponsors when he's playing golf. I mean, it's very serious. And he lives in Northeast Ohio, but they have a second home in North Carolina, which they drive to almost every weekend. So he can play golf. And on different courses, he could be in a foursome with the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. And so they wanted him to be able to protect his value, all opportunities, all situations. And he's a joy to work with. Now, what he learns for golf applies to school. And he recently did a presentation and he knocked it out of the park, and he read me the teachers, and I was like so proud, because communication skills are communication skills. We don't just use them in one area. We use them in all areas. So what he improves in communication for golf is going to improve him for the debate team, and it's going to improve him for college interviews. And he takes everything seriously. And the last thing I will say is what I tell every younger person. This afternoon, I have a 17-year-old that just happens that now the next generation of clients now are coming to me, 17 years old. And I tell everyone, I give them the same material that I would give a CEO. I expect the same of them. I give them the same homework. They've never disappointed me. And if anyone wonders what this youngest generation is like, from my experience with the few I've worked with, they're, going to far surpass us.
I have to say, number one, not only what an amazing opportunity and education for those young adults, right? But also for you being chosen as their coach. And I just think that speaks highly of you and your skills in helping people with their communication styles. On that note, I kind of wanted to switch over to your speech writing skills. I understand you're an amazing speech writer. So tell us about some of the clients that you work with in regards to speech writing.
I will tell you, I am an amazing speech writer. And the reason I will tell you that is I truly believe it's whatever you believe in your God, it is somewhat God-given. I have the ability to write a speech in your voice, only better. And And I truly believe it's just a gift that I have and that I can tap into, because my goal is not to write a speech for, Ralph that sounds like me. My goal is to write a speech for Ralph that sounds like Ralph, only better. If Ralph could have all the time and all the education, all the coaching in the world, that he could write a speech like that. That is my goal. I got contacted last week from a father that wanted help with a toast for his daughter's daughter's wedding toast. And it's his third one, but he wants something different, and he realizes, that he wants something better. So he's going about it in a different way. So, my goal is that I write it, but it sounds like you. And my test for any speech is that it has to be a speech only you could give. So I had a client he was a coaching client, and he was asked to speak to MBA students. And he wrote this speech, and he comes and he gives it to me, and he's all proud of himself, and he gives me the speech. And I still remember I said to him, and I adored this client. And I said to him, that is a fine speech. It's absolutely fine. The problem is, it sounds like a speech any CEO of any company in America could give on any given day or year.
So, in other words, boring.
It doesn't sound like you. There's no Riley in there. It has to be a speech only you could give. So one that I really got a kick out of, I was asked, as I said, Akron is the home of LeBron James. After he won the 2016 championship for Cleveland, Akron did a parade and awards for him. And the mayor of Akron asked me to write the speech that would introduce LeBron to the stage. And I did, and it was requoted on ESPN several times online and in person. That was very exciting to have, King James requoted.
That is so cool. So what is the process in terms of getting to know somebody in order to write a speech for them that sounds like that person?
I ask them for an hour of their time, whether it's on Zoom now or whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person. And what I call it is I pull things out of people. I just ask them to give me their time, and I will ask them questions, and I will pull things out of them that then I will use for the basis of the speech.
Okay, that is so good. So good. Leslie, I want to ask you, how does one find you if they want to hire you to write a speech or get involved with your communication, coaching with horses and all that kind of fun stuff?
Thank you. My website's electricimpulse.com, named after a horse. I'm Leslie at electricimpulse.com. You can also email me through the my website. You can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. My cell phone is 330-607-5730. You are welcome to text me or call me. Just don't leave me a message, because I'm horrible about listening to my phone messages, but I'm really good about text and email. So just find a way to reach out on LinkedIn, on, I don't care, Facebook, and email me. Just get in touch with me so I have your name, and we can talk about what we could do together to help you find your next level of excellence.
Yes, indeed. And for those that are listening and are unable to watch the video, Ungar is spelled Ungar. And when you're searching for electricimpulse.com, be sure and put a C in the ELEC, because I made the mistake earlier. I tried to spell electric without that C in there, and obviously didn't work. So just a little tip there for y'all who are bad spellers.
Electric company, just Electric Impulse. And I would look forward to hearing from you.
Yes. Leslie, is there anything else that you would like to leave us with? Any words of wisdom for our audience?
I would simply say that, what I find, and I work with people in different places in their career, whether, they're the young golf prodigy or whether they're a CEO, they just want to continue to be better, that you're closer than you think. And it's that outside perspective that can be such a help, but it doesn't mean you're 6 months or 12 months or 2 years away from your next level of excellence. I would tell you that I find that you are closer than you think you are.
such great advice. And I'm going to tell that to myself every minute of every day. I'm closer than I think I am.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Leslie. This was absolutely so much fun. And I look forward to seeing more of you.
Thank you so much. I've looked forward to this. It's meant so much to me, and I look forward to partnering with you in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.